Hey, One Gang, today's episode is a fun change of pace. We are recapping our Born Free 2025 trip with our special guest, Karl Ardo, who we got to do an episode before with. But we'll just jump into the conversation and hope you enjoy.
So what we'll do is we'll go through the show, guys, is going to be about our Born Free 16 experience. It's a recap show with our amazing Karl Ardo, the Zero Balancer on Instagram. You guys check him out. And he's a legend in the building, been to a few of these things. So we're going to kind of take you guys into Karl's journey, because you've heard the podcast from before. So we're not going to go down that road, but we are going to go into the road of more where Karl's going to kind of take you guys how he received the first call and on through the whole process of a builder being a part of the Born Free show and what's required. So anybody who listens to this and has aspirations to one day be one of the lucky chosen 32 for the show, this will be a great podcast. And then Ben and I will kind of get into our little 3-day soiree flying from Florida there and checking out the Cali scene, which was absolutely amazing. But so we'll kind of start with Karl. First of all, Karl, just welcome aboard, buddy. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the podcast again.
Well, when we met the first time in regards to the first podcast, when we were through, I felt like we had developed a relationship. It just wasn't you guys podcasting me and my world,
Definitely.
And since then, we have developed a relationship.
Yep.
And then you guys show up out at Born Free, which blew me away, and your journey to get there with all the interruptions.
Yeah. Hey, for the people watching on YouTube, I'm gonna slide my chair out right here. I'm gonna bring something over here.
Yeah, grab that.
This right here.
That's so stinking cool.
If you guys can see, this was the bike that Karl built for the Born Free shows, an old Triumph, and he was gracious enough to sign up for us and give it to us, and we got it hanging in our shop here, so we're totally stoked.
And that touches me deeply because it's on this sacred wall over there with Easy Rider.
Man. That's right. Yep.
Yes.
So it's cool as hell. 100%. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. So Born Free is a really interesting venue. How it started, and it started a fellow named Tony Dunn, the motorcycle shop called Classic Cycles. It was a Triumph British-based show. And he was the first one to put on a Born Free in his parking lot. And I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe he ran it for 2 years. And the first year it was, it went off okay. The second year it was crazy how big it became instant success.
Yeah.
And it was too much for him to handle. So that's when Mike and Grant worked with Tony to kind of move it forward. And then Mike and Grant had it for a few years in other larger space venues until they moved it to where it is now.
Right.
So where it is now, it's in the canyons in Southern California. So it's a beautiful ride just to get there.
Incredible.
It sets the tone for the build.
Yeah.
And there's a very large lake in the middle of this kind of desert area called Lake Irvine. And behind it is this huge space that they have concerts and events at.
So they do. They have live music in venues there?
They do. That's what that space
like
is. It's meant to be kind of, an outside event for things to take place. And that's where they've had it ever since, is there. And the sequence is there's a company called Builtwell that, if you're not familiar with them, they build all kinds of stuff.
Everything, yeah.
And they have a competition.
Yep.
And basically what it is I believe the number is 25 bikes they start off with that people, and then in that point, what happens is Builtwell, the viewers vote, and it's a process elimination until they get down to the last 6 bikes. And then Friday night at Cook's Corner is where the winner is chosen. And that winner gets a spot in the invite section where we were.
Right.
I'll explain that. So what happens is that besides all that, Builtwell handles the winner a $10,000 check.
That's killer.
And a bunch of goodies for being there.
Yep.
You know, and where this takes place is at Cook's Corner. It's considered the original Hell's Angels bar in Southern California. It's been there for eons, uninterrupted except for when it floods or there's a fire in the area.
Oh,
you know,
shit. Yeah.
You know, and it's got the perfect throwback vibe of the 50s.
It's a killer place, man. That was a killer place. It got wild. We, because of our flight delay and we were supposed to be there around 3, and we didn't fly into we didn't get to our hotel till almost 8 o'clock. And then Cody picked us up, and took us to Cook's Corner. So when we got there, the party's been going on since 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So everybody was feeling good, you know. I mean, they're doing burnouts inside the bar. I mean, it was pretty insane. So it was a lot of fun, man. It's a great place. I mean, it's a great biker bar. Yeah, look, they're lifting him up on the motorcycle right there.
Shovelhead. Yeah, the Shovelhead that won. I'll add. I was thinking it would be cool if we add like a slideshow while we're talking. We throw some images in and put some videos up. But
yeah, that was the kid that drove the chopper from Canada, and the bike made it all the way without breaking down. So based on his riding, I wouldn't say, in my opinion, out of those 6 that were chosen, that was the best build. It was it was the most reliable, it seemed like. Because there was a couple there that were just, man, through the roof. I mean, these guys really did, but they didn't. One had transmission problems and one had some other issues. So because they didn't finish the ride, this guy was chosen. But I mean, to ride from Canada to California, man, on a hardtail chopper, God bless this guy, man. He deserved to be the winner, man.
Yeah, he dropped his bike. Either right before or right after
he was going to the burnout and dropped it.
You know, certain he's headed towards it, and it's so funny because the whole crowd's cheering, yelling.
I mean, everybody was feeling good. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then the next day we're walking by and we're seeing the builders' bikes, and he wasn't around, so we assume it was on purpose. But we were looking at the bikes, and he had it down in the grass on its side.
And then he put his sleeping bag on it and laid on it and slept.
Yeah. We definitely are going to add pictures and videos and stuff to this episode so people can see it. But that was hilarious, man. So many cool bikes. So, Uncle Karl, as I'm calling you now, because it does feel like we've known each other for a couple of decades. You know, we've got this awesome relationship with you, man. We appreciate your time today. And I think part of the insight that we'd love to find out, and what a lot of our audience would love to know too, is what it's like being a builder invited to Born Free. So can you take us into the inception of it all, what it felt like to get that invitation, how it transpired?
This was the 16th Born Free, and in the 13th Born Free, the year before is when I brought my oil and frame Triumph drag bike, not as an invite builder, but Mike has an area that he corrals just for Triumph pre-units. And since my drag bike was a pre-unit, he said, yeah, bring it up. And once they saw the bike, I think that kind of opened the door to give me an invitation.
Right.
So I'm invited for the 13th show, and I'm going to build another drag bike. I've got plans for a non-tubed flat plate Triumph pre-unit drag bike, something like Alps. And I didn't know he was building one at the time, And then what happened is a really good friend of mine saw my oil and frame Triumph back east, David, and got the gears rolling that he might want to build a drag bike. So fast forward, he gets invited to this really eccentric guy's collection. I believe it was in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, one of those places. And in the corner was this pile of drag bike stuff. And come to find out, the guy just came from an estate sale. Todd Schuster, who's a really important player in the success of Butler and Smith, BMW, and then Honda, passed away. And this fellow wanted to buy this particular bike from Todd. And Todd basically said no. So now that Todd passed away, he got it through the estate sale.
Nice.
So needless to say, my friend bought that. And then I talked him into selling it to me, all these pieces of this. So I reached out to Mike and Grant and said, instead of me building a bike, can I put a bike together? And I showed them the pictures. They said, absolutely. So my first year was really bringing a bike back to life. It was Todd Schuster's Tokyo Rose. One of the videos got 45,000 hits. You know,
Nice.
It's a really magical piece of history. But so what happens is that I really never built a bike. So, you know, I was thinking, and the fellow Scott that owns 4 of my bikes and now 5 of my bikes, I was talking to him, and we were
Lucky.
going to do a digger, and then it turned into that red bobber that, because things started to show up, and pointed me in another direction. So I'm still kind of got this digger in my mind.
Right.
And, you know, I got talking with Mike and Grant, and they said, build a bike for us this year.
Cool.
So what happens is that as much as them discovering you, you can reach out to them and say you're interested in, and that number of how many people show up really changes. Sometimes it's in the 20s, the high teens. This time, I think it was 32 builders.
32 builders, yep.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and the process is really interesting because I never built a bike for anybody else but myself. And in that process of doing that, there's really no pressure. It's done when it's done. So to have this thing
Right.
that I've got this
Yeah,
deadline
finally
to
did.
do, even though I got about a year to build it, it changes the momentum.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that
Sure.
my support team, I mean, I have a painter and I've got a machinist, and I was really fortunate. I moved out here to Southern California 12 years ago, coming from a very well-established network in the East Coast of Maryland, to come here to know nobody.
Right.
And in a short period of time, when I kind of showed up in the Triumph world, the Triumph people, you got to have this guy do that person do, you know, it was like they helped me move along to get established quickly.
That's
So,
cool.
you know, in that process, all of that support system kind of moved to the next level of what they were, because it was a born free. So it's like my painter, the guy that did the frame, this stuff. So, you know,
Hey,
and then
Carl,
Josh.
let me ask you this.
Yes.
And we'll get it away as we continue.
Sure.
But I did want to ask you this. So they reach out to you. They say, "Hey, why don't you build a bike for the 16 show?" What's the first thing you did once you knew you were in? Did you start kind of sketching, parts hunt? What were you working on at that point in time to get yourself ready to go? What was like the first course of action?
This digger project has been in my mind for a couple of years prior to the Born Free show. And it has really occupied a lot of mental bandwidth relative to how I wanted it to show up. You know, so I had done a lot of process of elimination to refine what it is I wanted before ever touching anything. And then I built a really nice engine that I was going to use in that red bike. But then what happened is that this 60 Bonneville engine, matching numbers, frame loop, it all showed up in an estate that I said, okay, I'm going to use this instead of that.
Nice. Yeah, for sure.
So I had this, I had this really well built. It has a Lighten TT racing crank, balanced rods, 9.5-to-1 competition, you know, performance cams, Bonneville head. That was just kind of sitting over here waiting to find a home. And so what happened is that I had kind of did some in preliminary drawings, you might say, back then, and then just tucked them away. So that what happened is that I've got these 2 opportunities at the same time. Born Free invites me to build a bike, and the fellow that just bought my red bike kind of knew I was kicking this digger around. He says, well, when you build a digger, I want that too.
Wow.
So it's, you know, so it's it's like it's got a home before I even
I
started.
mean, and that's so awesome. Just to cut you off for a second, for anybody who builds bikes for a living, and sometimes it's not a commission build out of the gate, so everything's out of pocket. That's a nice, refreshing feeling to know. Even though, most likely, I mean, the
Yeah.
talent that was at that show, they're gonna sell their bikes whether they had them built for somebody or they didn't. I mean, the quality of the work was off the
Oh
charts.
yeah, the
but
show was
yeah,
exceptional.
insane. But I mean, that's a nice feeling to have. Correct, as somebody who's putting the money into the project and doing it and being able to build it and know that it's got a home once it's done.
It's been interesting because it's like, I've gotten this bandwidth of funds, and each bike that Scott purchased, that money is now the seed money for the next build.
The next one, right?
So it's like there's a little gets scraped off the top, which is very little, and then on to the next one. I probably make 10 cents an hour, not even,
I know.
given just, all the time on eBay looking for stuff that I don't know what it is I'm looking for until I find it, things like that. So,
Yeah.
so the process went along really well, and that's not the same for everyone. I mean, I see some of these guys that don't start their build till halfway through when it's ready to be shown, and they work under stress.
Yeah.
I can't do them. That's not my thing to get me up in the morning. So there's
Well,
not
one of the advantages you have is you're retired, correct? I mean, you're retired.
well.
Wait, I mean, you work, but you're retired, right?
I don't work for somebody else, and I'm not
Correct.
getting a paycheck. So I'm 77 years old.
77 years young.
So for the last maybe 20 plus years, I've kind of worked for myself, teaching Qigong, all that zero balancing health
Right.
stuff, and that, had a school. So, but I didn't consider that work. I just considered people are paying me to have fun.
Right. And more,
You know,
a lot of these guys,
really
a lot of
wasn't
these
it.
guys have small shops, so they got to
Oh,
take care
yeah.
of customers, and they got to try to build, and they got parts that they got to make. So there's so much on their plate. I know, speaking with Fish from Alleyway Customs, he was a little bit
Oh, yeah.
stressed because he was balancing a lot of things out. He's got some stuff going on with the shop, and
Yeah.
so he was trying to get a lot of stuff done. So he had some stress through this thing, but I mean, and thank God he made it through, man, with a beauty too. So
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
You have this tribe, which is pretty much how I looked at the community of Born Free. That's a tribe. They have their own vibe, look, things that move them and stuff. And then there's me. It's not
Yeah.
part of the tribe per se. I'm the old out guy from another tribe that no longer exists, kind of a thing. So it's like I was, to be in that world. I mean, it's hard. I pinch myself, but it was a gift. But in the same respect, is that whole other everyone else, I would say, this type of event can help catapult their business, their success, definitely elevate their recognition in the marketplace. I've got 3 magazines that are doing feature articles on the bike because of the show,
yeah,
which is really
awesome.
kind of
That's
cool.
awesome.
So there's a lot that if you can afford to do it and you feel like the caliber of what you do is, it has evolved, I would reach out to the guys at Born Free, give them a couple of months to get their heads back together.
settle in. Yep.
Because they got a show coming up in Texas shortly. So,
Yep. October, right?
we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah. October.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's just remarkable the level of craftsmanship that's out there. And these are, for the most part, either self-taught or driven to gain this knowledge to become what they are.
Right.
And I was totally impressed with, from the beginning to the end, just to watch this, because we went there Thursday night. We had to have our bikes there by 2:30, and I only live 10 miles away. So Scott and his wife flew in to come to Born Free, the fellow that owns my bike. Never been to California before.
Really? Never been to California?
he's a retired Jag race car driver.
And I'm surprised because
And
California is a big scene and all that
yeah, the
stuff.
problem is that there was a race that wasn't in California. And the conversation prior to that race is that the Jag racing team was going to come to California. And the California team, whatever that group was, went to this venue outside of California and they got spanked by the Jag
Got
team.
it. Got it.
And then the California said, nah, we don't want you. So he never raced here. Kind of a thing.
That's funny.
So what happened is that, Wendy and Scott, we didn't know. I mean, I know them, but they didn't know so that they came from basically Wednesday to Tuesday here. Basically, Scott came to Born Free. So what I did was, bike's finished in the garage. I got a sheet over the bike so they can't see it. I have them walk out in the garage, close their eyes, little drum roll,
Right.
play the video and reveal the bike. And I mean, that was gold.
Yeah.
We should actually, Carl, can you did send us that video. We'll cut to that video on YouTube so everybody can watch it.
It's great. And then the cool thing, think about coming to California for the first time and you get to ride a digger. He rode the digger from my house to Born Free, which is 10 miles away. And the cool thing is I back up to the canyons. So leaving my house gets progressively cooler. You don't have to drive through the traffic to get there.
That's
and
nice.
then we passed Cook's Corner, and then we got so that was his introduction to California. So I just the whole vibe. And then you get to ride it back too.
Yeah.
So we really left an impression.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
definitely. Hey, Carl, can you take us through how much time you have you touched on it briefly, but how much time you have between the invitation and the show for your build? And so to kind of take us into detail on the timeline.
It's approximately about 10 months you have to build a bike. Given, if you're motivated to start when they say yes, you can build a bike. And then they periodically check with you to make sure that you can finish it, that there hasn't been something in your life that changed it, so that, because towards the end they begin to make information about the builders. So if you're going to be a builder, they want to continue that. Just to take a side note, in March I pinched a nerve in my back starting that red bike. That one was like a Harley. That one kicked.
Oh yeah.
And it had its moments of where fire, but other times it was just, and it kicked me so bad that I pinched a nerve in my back.
Wow.
To the point that I
man.
can't start a bike again. And this bike is my last build. So this is kind of like my bookend. But getting to your story, it's like in my case, I have basically, this has been the most extensive build I've ever done, into totally modifying the frame, 45-degree kick, changing I used the 54 Triumph hardtail. I stretched it. So there was a lot of stuff that happened where I just didn't get a frame off the shelf and build it and things, so, but fortunately the people showed up that were to do what they needed to do in a timely fashion.
Hey, were there any unexpected challenges during the build? Maybe like part delays, design changes that you went through, or like to take us a little bit into that?
It was one of the problems was finding somebody that would do the modifications to the frame that I needed. I don't have a frame jig. My shop consists of a Harbor Freight $80 drill press, a 4.5-inch hand grinder, a vise, and a bunch of files and a hammer. That's my shop.
Oh, old school shop, man.
I don't have any of that. I don't even work on a motorcycle table. I work on the ground on a carpet, a Persian rug in my garage.
No table, huh?
I built my first bike on a table when I bought a bike from Ian Berry, the fellow that now has Falcon Motors, really. But I bought it when it was he was just beginning his I'm in Maryland 25 years ago. He's in California. So I buy a Triumph from him. I get it out and I fall in love with Triumphs. I had bikes before, and that's what started my bike building career.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to build a bike. So a friend of mine in Maryland, who's no longer with us, Wolf of Wolf Cycles outside of Baltimore, I made a deal with him. I says, look, over the winter, you're slow. I want to build a bike. So he said, okay, I'll charge you $50 an hour when you need my help. So I'm building it on a motorcycle table. You know, it's got an Aim and Savior frame. It's kicked out. It's really long and nice and stuff. I get it on the ground and I don't like it. Because the decisions that I made here at eye level when it was on the ground, it looked totally different. So I just, from that point on, I never built a bike on the table before. I put them all on the ground.
Interesting.
So I have this sacred space that nothing goes there until it's clean. But I'm 77 and I'm in, other than this pinched nerve, you know, I'm in relatively good health. And I think because I'm on the ground doing stuff. God, thanks.
How old do you feel, Karl?
Well, if I close my eyes 16, I look in the mirror, I don't know who that guy is.
That's so funny.
So the process, the most difficult part was doing the frame, the modification. So I talked to some people out here and they wanted crazy money. And I just felt like they give me this big number because they didn't want to do it. And I knew what I wanted. So back in Detroit, I bought a drag bike from a friend in Detroit that was kind of getting rid of a lot of stuff to finance more builds. And I picked up this Triumph drag bike. And I was really impressed with the frame. I mean, you know, and then I watched him and from the time that I bought it, he built like 4 other frames for guys and stuff. So I reached out to Kevin and I says, hey, you're in Detroit. I'm here. You want to do this for me? He said, absolutely.
Okay.
So he modified my frame, my hardtail, did all that stuff. I gave him drawings and stuff. He has a frame jig. So that piece. Now here's
nice.
I have a Wassel banana tank, which is a classic English tank for a British bike. What I wanted to do was build a real British bobber, a digger, not an American digger that's hard edged and I want it to be soft and sexy and something that didn't jump and say, look at me. It was like one of those things that more you paused a moment and backed up to discover it.
Right.
And there are a lot of one-off slick pieces on this bike. Paul that owns Award Customs in New Zealand, I think, or Award Cycles in New Zealand, made these one-off velocity stacks for me that are corkscrew twists.
So
and there's
cool.
There's a clockwise and counterclockwise one. And when you look from the seat over the tank with these things looking up, it doesn't get any more sexier than that. The thing just looks okay. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So what happens is you know, we modify the back end of the Wassel tank to make it sexy and floating. I've got all this cool stuff. So the day before the show, I got this tank sealed with Wassel. I'll think of it, but it's a sealer that I use on all my bikes. It works. It's great. We take the bike around so that Scott can get kind of used to it. After the 3rd time around the rail, I got a gas leak from the tank.
Oh, shoot. From the tank.
Yeah, that's understatement.
Damn.
So all of a sudden, I'm kind of. So what I've used before JB Weld in gas applications. So I took the tank off, turned it up, and I could see where it was. Is that we had created these struts that created the frame, and then we put the steel, or Josh did this, and where that was from the vibration caused a torque. That when it was where it was, and then where after everything was there was a torque to it. So it didn't rip, but it created an opening that allowed the gas to weep out. So I cleaned it really well, stuck the tank on its end so that it would all puddle there. And I put a coated JB Weld on. And this is the day before having to take it to the show. And then 2:00 in the morning, I'm back up giving it a second coat of JB Weld. And all night I'm thinking, okay, I got to get a trailer. I got to do this. The bike's got to, so, and I got to leave. Okay. So needless to say, it worked. It did exactly what I expected to do. That will never leak that area again.
Good.
But that was like,
well, that's stressful because the person, plus the person who bought the bike was there So that's going on. So you got a paying customer, and then something like that happens, and you're like, it hurts, man. I've been through that, so it's not fun.
Well, the interesting thing about dealing with
Yeah.
Scott is being part of the Jag racing team. There's all this shakedown stuff, all this stuff you don't understand, all the things that come in that, and this was no big deal to him. We'll fix it one way or another and stuff. And he was confident in me. And we fixed it. So taking that story a little quick for, okay. So when you bring your bike to Born Free, you just park it in the corral area.
Right.
That's Thursday. They go over all the details that they want from you. Then you leave, and Mike and them, they reposition the bikes the way they want them. So they set them up accordingly. Okay. So the following morning, I come with all my cleaning supplies, Scott and I, to clean the bike, and we walk in from where the something of death, where the guys ride around on the motorcycle. Yeah, right, exactly. So we're coming from that angle towards the stage, and I don't see my bike. I'm walking in and I'm looking and I'm looking. I'm focused, and Scott's looking too, and neither one of us see the bike. Man. So Scott was under the impression that, God, maybe the gas leaked and they wanted to quarantine away from the bikes. And what it was where it was on the other side. And because it's so narrow, I didn't see it until I walked over here. There's my bike.
Yeah.
It was in the same spot that we saw it at?
Yeah. They couldn't have picked a better spot to stick the bike.
No, that spot was sweet.
Right. Yeah. For listeners, you had the perfect backdrop because the Born Free merch booth was right behind
and
your
the stage was
bike.
to the right.
So you had this giant Born Free sign right behind. That spot was primo. Right on the outside, on the corner. Anybody going into the stage is going to pass right by your bike.
I have one picture that I think really talks volumes about the bike. So I have a picture of my bike. All the other, it's crowded and everybody looking at the Harleys. And one guy with a beer coming forward looking at my bike.
Oh, that's cool. Send that to us, please.
I mean, because that's how that the bike was truly in a lane unto itself. There wasn't another digger. There wasn't another thing like that. And that I'm saying it not in a negative way. It occupied its own space. And what was there was meant to be there. And that style bike is, that vintage style Harley, and even the Triumphs that looked like Chopper. That's the lane. So I was kind of, again, being the old guy, the outcast. The bike was, and I went in there expecting that. I didn't expect anything other than just having to show the bike. But as I said to my friend, now I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I'm sure next year there'll be 20 diggers.
Right. A few more. Well, I mean, because it's different. That was different.
Fun to see.
Everybody had short, stubby bikes. And now, yours was really the only long bike there.
I'm 3 inches short of 9 feet.
So it's a long bike.
Yeah. So,
jeez.
So, I mean, outside of that, my painter showed up. I have a painter. He goes as Hootie, as George. He's painted a Roadster for me. He painted the bottom end of Tokyo Rose because it was hanging in the rafters of 50 years. He's done he's did Josh's bike, which is so he's done a lot. And he came over when the bike was together, and I said, get inspired. And I basically dialed him into the lane I was looking for with the attitude, but not the image.
Why did you choose the blue?
I had collected maybe 7 different colored blues.
You knew you were going blue, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I knew I wanted to highlight all the connectors and bungs. Because so I wanted that I wanted that 70s style look. And we decided to do the webbing, but not frame the webbing. So it was a soft webbing and soft transition. So the pattern that George created for the tank and then also the fender was all him. After us talking about, that I didn't want the hard edge. I didn't want the glitz. I didn't want it in your face. I wanted everything to be equal so that the paint job wasn't competing with the bike. And stuff. And he nailed it.
Yeah,
He nailed it.
That was a
He
beautiful.
And
really
the whole
did.
thing,
The way he accented the lines was
yeah.
awesome.
And the
And
pit.
Just and I noticed the longer you looked at your bike, the more details you noticed in, obviously mechanically, but even in the paint. I started to notice I missed a pinstripe on the sides
Where
of
it
your gas
dips,
tank.
where it dips in, like
Complemented,
it's killer.
yeah, it complemented the lines so nicely that it sort of, it was like one with the bike in a great way. You really had to tune in to catch those little details. The paint, he absolutely nailed. That
I had
was
a
awesome.
pinstriper come to the house to pinstripe the bike, Jeff Stiles, and he has a shop that's here, but he's a high-end guy. And I had two other pinstripers I reached out to, and they kind of, yeah, and they never share, And I had a Roadster. I had a 2529 blended red Roadster that I had pinstriped, and there was nothing didn't have pinstriping on it. It was from front to back, radiator frame, it was pinstripe. And when I looked at this bike, when I said I just wanted a few accents. I didn't want the classic busy pinstripe for it. And I talked to Jeff, and he totally agreed. So award cycles, Paul, the transmission I have is called a slick shift transmission. In other words, you can shift it without putting the clutch in. And it was illegal. They made it in 59 through 61 for the the last years of the Triumph. And in the racing world, they outlawed it. You can't use it because you didn't need your clutch to shift. And if you got really good at it, you could push your foot on the shift lever past first gear, and it would go to neutral without you, so you could lift your foot off and it would engage. Really simple, beautiful, elegant engineering to make that happen.
Yeah.
So there's a cover that's oval on the side of where you adjust the rod for the clutch and stuff. And Paul makes this beautiful little cover with these lines that when you look at it, it almost looks like water moving. So imagine a stick in the water and it's moving and it's got this separation. And that's the pattern I wanted to pick up on. So with the graphic design that George created, it looked like water, the reflection of water in a kind of an artistic abstraction of water moving. So that caught the theme that I wanted to accentuate the idea of movement. So we used that so it looked like water was moving with very few stripes. And the color blue that the pinstriper used was the exact same color as my wiring for the bike. So I have this blue spiraled wiring off the brake light switch. It comes up. I mean, it's like it's as if I gave him this and said match this to paint and stuff.
Yeah.
So, So, I was gifted a lot of really interesting parts. I designed. Paul and I bought parts for the red bike from him, the fellow in New Zealand, and you got to check him out. If you guys, he'll make things. He's got a 3D printer and does, all of that. And he's into that vintage lane where like Webco and those guys used to be, and they're no longer around. Well, he's making thin covers, timing covers. And I mean, and it's not just for Triumphs. He's doing Harley stuff in now.
Hey, I wanted to ask you one thing real quick.
Sure.
I'm curious for builders that are out there, when you're chosen for this show, right? And this build you have to build, do sponsors help you pay for this thing, to build this thing? Like, how does it work?
Some do.
With the finances for some guys. Some guys do it on their own dime, and some guys have sponsors that help them build it, or like that's an important thing that I think a lot of people don't know.
That's a really good question. Burns Stainless Steel, which makes stainless steel exhausts here in California, you build your own, the tubing and stuff, and they do have collectors and setup for Harleys.
Right.
My friend Tony that owns Blacktop Magazine is the advertiser for Burns Stainless Steel, as well as for other companies. And what Tony did was and I think it was a combination that they said, you need to sponsor a few bikes for Born Free, because he has a what do you call it? Not a tent, a space to sell things at Born
Booth or
Free.
something.
What
Right.
would you? You
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
Like
yeah,
a
a
booth.
booth. I was
Yeah.
in there; it just wouldn't come out.
I got your back,
And
man.
so I was fortunate enough that he gave me stainless steel. You know, Tony put the deal together. So here's a little side story. I've got a very interesting exhaust flow coming off the engine. Normally, the exhaust
Mhm.
off a Triumph looks like it's bow-legged. It goes out and then comes around and comes back in. And I was going to do that. I already,
Right.
you know, and then I get this stainless steel with mandrels that I got to cut. And my friend Josh brings over a box of angled cut pieces from their shop. He works at Ruffians in the exhaust system. So I started playing with the Tinker toys. And so what I was able to do is instead of them coming out, I've got them coming out and in, and they
Mhm.
follow the frame rails down
Mhm.
so
No,
they
man,
don't
it's
stick out.
so
I
sleek,
never
so
would have
sleek.
done that. I never would have done that if I
Yeah.
didn't get the stainless steel gift
Right.
to think differently. And so it's like,
That
you know, that was
inspiration.
one of the gifts
Yep.
and stuff, which was nice. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
yeah.
cool.
So yeah, there are
Yeah.
sponsors,
So you get a
you know,
get
and there
some-
are people that'll give you discounts knowing you're there, or a number of people move things ahead of the line to get it done for me.
That's awesome.
You know,
That's
Yeah.
Right.
awesome.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. And that's good exposure for them too. Carl, what's the vibe like in the days leading up to the show? You know, stress, excitement, no sleep.
all
is
of what
that
you
like?
just said. You know, I mean, you know, I teach
Gas
Qigong, Tai
leaks.
Chi, meditation, and I do bike building to ground me. Because if I didn't do that, I'd be at the airport handing out flowers.
Mari
I don't
Krishna.
know. Yeah, and I've been building stuff since I was 16. You know, 700 horsepower. You know, so I would say this has been a lane that I've been in long enough to kind of understand the cycle.
Right.
And I started early enough. And up until that gas leak, it's like I was well ahead of the curve.
That's
you know,
nice.
I don't like stress. I'm the kind of guy that if I've got to be somewhere where I'm always 15 minutes early,
Me too.
you know, that's me.
Yep.
So, but, you know, I got guests coming in. I got this bike he's going to ride. I've only ridden around the block twice. Is it going to make it there? I got all of my tools in the trunk of my car for every possible disaster that's going to
Yeah.
show up. And, you know, and then you've got these people. You got my friend Jared Leon coming in from Florida, and he's bringing 4 bikes plus the show bike, you know, and you got to be prepared for everything. So you kind of, you know, so guys, I mean, they're from
Yeah.
Florida, New York, all over.
Right.
And the cool thing is that it's so beautiful out here. The camping, these
Yeah.
guys went to Joshua Tree for a few days to kind of make it a
cool.
vacation while they were here.
It's
You know, where we are from the
Yeah.
canyon, you're maybe less than 40 minutes away from the ocean.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
it's right there kind of a thing. So, you know,
Yeah.
if you're considering this, you can make this more than just coming to Born Free. I mean, there are people from Europe, England, Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big global.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a global
community. And
event.
again, it's in this vintage lane, vintage bike.
Right, because it's such
lane.
a niche. It's such a niche. It's not like a bike week where everybody and anybody. This is a specific crowd that enjoys a specific type of a motorcycle. So it's a total niche type of a festival.
Yeah.
Which kicked ass. I mean,
But
it was my
Yeah.
favorite I've ever been to.
Thank you. Well,
That
the
is
nice
so
thing to
cool.
say is that there are vendors inside that have stuff for everybody and anybody
yeah.
that's in the bikes.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
so you've got the
Yep.
vintage guys, you got the new guys, you got guys that are building high-end new bikes. You got Arlen Ness's booth that's there. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's a candy store
It is.
for whatever you want to
Yep,
do.
It is.
You know, and then there's
Yeah.
there's an area that if you're not a builder, but if you buy it soon enough, you can get a grass pass, which then allows you to come in and
Mhm.
park on the grass where the venue is. It's allocated. And then outside of that, you know, you're dealing with a dust bowl because it's out there.
Yeah, we were out there. We were
Right.
in the dust
So-
bowl.
Right.
So there's
Yeah,
an
we were
advantage to get
covered.
a grass pass
Yeah.
because the dust bowl is on the
Yeah.
other side of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that it was set up is really cool too, because it was you're in this Dust Bowl parking lot, and then you walk down a little bit into what feels like a pasture
Yeah.
almost, and there's trees with good shade and stuff, and there were thousands of bikes in that grass pass area, and lots of groups of people just hanging out under the trees in the shade. But being close to the beach, like you mentioned, you still get that breeze. It was so nice, and we'd heard rumors that you're going out, be prepared to sweat. It's going to be,
No, it
insanely
wasn't.
hot, but that
No,
weather
we caught
was
we caught a
gorgeous.
good
Carl,
weekend.
you
We got lucky.
covered,
Man.
You did. This was exceptional because when I
yeah,
did
it
it in
was
the
so
13, it
nice.
was over 80 there, and it was like being in
Last
a
year they
toaster
said
oven.
last year it hit 100. They said it was
Yeah.
absolutely brutal
Yeah,
for the 15 show. So
yeah. Carl, you mentioned, so you've covered the vibes leading up to the show. Now I really want to know this part. Saturday comes. What does it feel like to have thousands of people walking by and admiring your bike?
Um, I'm the kind of guy that sits back, it's like I'm not by the bike, but I'm in,
Observer.
just to kind
Yeah.
of, I want to protect it. I saw a little kid come and hold the throttle, and I was concerned that he was going to pull the handlebar, and it, just that kind
Gosh.
of stuff. And what
Yeah.
I'll do is when somebody's spending time with the bike more than just the casual look, I'll come over and say, can I
Mhm.
answer any questions and stuff? But I don't impose myself. It put a big smile on my face. There's a photographer that's photographing for a magazine. I'm not going to say anything because it used to be Chopper magazine, but it's going through a change and some stuff going on. At least that's what I was led in the sketchiness of all that, getting this information. Well, this photographer came 3 times. He photographed my bike in kind of
Wow.
mid-morning all over it, then came back again mid-afternoon,
Yeah.
and then came back again. Yeah. So he came back again. So he caught it in the morning sun, afternoon sun, and then the day sun, and spent, I would say, 20 minutes photographing the bike. That made my being there. That was truly a high point. And his comments
That's
were
cool,
is that,
man.
like I was saying with my friends, is that this is a different bike. This is it's in a different lane, and this is a different style bike than the rest that's here. And he says that's what we're looking for in the magazine. So it's like, that worked with,
What an honor.
I let people sit on the bike like you did, Ben and
Yep.
Serge, to take pictures.
Yeah, that was awesome.
There were people that had,
Ben's changed every cover photo he has now. He's got you himself on that
Yeah,
bike.
that's right.
So.
well, there were people
So
that I
cool.
only know through Instagram from other countries that introduced themselves, and so
Neat, man.
if you want a picture on the bike, I mean, if you took the effort to come,
Yep.
I want to compliment that.
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But it was
Yeah.
great looking
Yeah.
at all the bikes.
Carl, so Saturday came, it's crazy busy, but then Sunday came along. For us, Sunday was
Yeah.
easier to get in and out,
Yeah.
and not quite as many people. What was it like for you on Sunday? Was it less hectic, a little bit more laid back? How would you compare Sunday to Saturday?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Saturday is just this enormously intense event, and there's the motivation that everybody wants to be there first so that they have something to talk about to their friends that weren't there. It's like going to an opening
Yeah,
movie,
that
you know,
makes
you want, so it's like that's why
Yeah.
Saturday got to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm having physical therapy on my back for the pinched nerve. And I go in for physical therapy, and the receptionist said, "I saw you at Born Free."
Right.
So but getting back is that yes, Saturday was much more relaxed. My son, my wife,
Sunday.
Scott's wife, came Sunday to the bike show, which was really cool. It was fun for my son to see this part of his old man.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, that was cool. Meeting
I
your
mean,
son, your wife, everything was
Same,
great.
right?
Hey, Carl,
Thank you.
let me ask you this. For the audience listening and maybe some bike builders listening, if someone wanted to become a Born Free invited builder, what advice would you give them personally, being that you've already done it a couple of times yourself?
I will give you Mike and Grant's email address. And if you want to post it, your audience can come out and gather it from you, or you can just go to Born Free.
Yeah, they've got all their
Born
contact
Free
information there. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, what I would do is I would just, if you feel comfortable that you could commit to building a bike, they do not want a bike that's in process. They don't want a bike that you pick off the shelf and it needs to be built.
Orange County
you need
bikes.
to document. Yeah, you need to document the process. You need to be very interactive. You need to hashtag all of these different Born Free sites that they have so that your progress report gets posted to the audience and stuff. You know, so you have to have that level of commitment. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a beauty queen.
Right.
At all. I mean, if you're into making things look old and you know, beat up and that look, but that's the look, that's equally as acceptable as anything else.
That's right.
You know, so it's like you don't have to step outside of what you do, or if this is what you do, you can do it.
Yep.
And the thing I believe most of all is that there's kind of two groups of people. There are people that build bikes to get awards, and there's people that build bikes that this is who they are.
Passion.
You know,
Yep.
and not to pass judgment. Either or is what it is. But I find the ones that the guys that build the bikes that are an extension of them and not chasing trophies are the ones that the community there kind of connects to it. It's like it's got energy and spirit, and you know, the individual shows up, and you know, so that there's just a I believe, and this is just me, a greater level of fitting in the lane of what the intention of Born Free is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, that's a good call. You know, it's funny bringing that up, and we were standing around hanging out around your bike, and a crowd started to gather around one of the other builds, and I'm talking to Wendy, and we're like, what's going on? And evidently the other builder was about to shoot flames out of the exhaust, and so they're just and so people kind of gather around, and I stood there for a minute.
You know what, Ben, did you know the story of that bike? That bike was in the fires. It was in the California fires.
Yeah,
they redid it, which was so cool, man, that they resurfaced it and rebuilt it and brought it to the show. So that was prop.
Yeah, we'll post some pictures of that too, because they had parts that had melted in the
crazy.
fire next to the bike and stuff. If you're gonna make flames shoot out of one
Yeah,
bike,
no doubt
that
about
would be the one for sure.
Well, that's another point to this, is that there are so many backstories. I mean, everybody's got a story, you know, and you collect this information going to the show. You collect these people's story, you know, you get to, you know, like the the relevance of this. And that was a bike that got first place.
Yep.
Oh, so let me talk about that. Okay, so there's basically 3 awards. Builtwell has an award that the winner gets 10 grand, and you're part of the Born Free Corral.
That's the cook show on Friday night.
Correct. And then there's the Saturday builders vote, so that we all get a voting card for all the builders, except each one of our names is blacked out, so we can't vote on our own bike.
Yep.
And then what happens is that grouping gets picked first, second, and third place. So the first place builder gets $5,000, an all expense paid trip for him and himself to go Japan to the Moon Eye show.
Killer.
And
So cool.
And I've got friends that have gone, and when you go to the Moon Eye show in Japan, it's like you're Mick Jagger going to a concert. You are your first class treatment from start to finish. Where you stay, how you're responded to. You drive into this space to bring your bike to the crowd. There's 1,000 Japanese photographers taking pictures of you and stuff. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Japan has an incredible. They've got a lot of incredible builders, and they've got an incredible American motorcycle history there, man. They love old Harleys, old Indians. They've got some top-notch builders out there too, man.
Well, the Moon Eye show, basically, this community becomes that for 2 weeks. They dress, they look like Fonzie, leather jackets, rolled up sleeve dungarees, slick back. I mean, they transform.
Absolutely.
That culture they totally identify with.
Yep.
So what happens is that second place, I believe, gets 3,000, and third place gets possibly 2,000. So you've got those awards. So you've got the first. Now the Sunday is what's called the People's Choice Awards. And there's awards that are given by vendors and stuff. So there's about 25 awards. And then there's the show pick. And the show pick is driven by the Moon Eye company that's here in California. That is, it's run by Japanese folks that are connected to the Moon Eye show in Japan. So what happens is that they pick a bike, which is from their standpoint, the best in show for the bike. And that person gets also $5,000 and an all expense paid trip to go to Japan also. So there's 2 of those.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
and the
cool.
cool thing is that the Triumph that took second place in the first day of
between builders,
voting, between the builders, he was the guy that was picked to go to Japan with the $10,000. It was a 17-year-old kid. Did you happen to see his build?
Yep. I seen it. Yep.
It was mind blowing. There's always this fear of the one-hit wonder. You know, like in the music, you come out with something out of the gate.
Right.
You know? But he comes from a family of builders. He's circled by builders and stuff. And how humble he is. I mean, just being asked to build a bike blew him away.
Yep.
Let alone all the other. So he's somebody that I'm going to follow.
Yeah,
see
for sure.
Where this
Definitely.
young fellow shows up.
It's good to see.
Yeah. Carl, you mentioned the painter, George. Do you have anybody else you want to shout out to that helped you make this happen?
Give me 1 second so that I don't forget any.
Yeah.
He's going to read off the list. You want me to give you the list? That's funny.
I got it. So what Sergi showed you is that I printed off these thank you cards, and I had one made out of aluminum that was at the show, but then I gave copies to, all the folks on here and a handful of friends, you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got to sign it.
Honored to be on that list.
On the list, I've got my wife, Joyce Ardo, the world's best wife.
Yep.
Anyone that can put up with my stuff deserves an enormous award. I'm not difficult in a difficult way, but I'm definitely not the norm of how a human moves through space.
That's cool.
My friend Josh Winderman, he has been with me, one of my first and closest friends. We got together building a roadster. Everything I built, he's touched. He's put his signature on it. He modified the gas tank for me. He did a lot of welding. I designed the seat pan. He made the seat pan for me. He's just a really talented guy. And he works for Ruffian. And Ruffian, these guys, you just got to check them out. Chris at Ruffian, the stuff they build is incredible.
All right.
Then I've got Burn Stainless Steel. They gifted me the stainless steel. And Eli's Polishing. It's hard to find a chrome plater out here in California.
Yeah,
because
manufacturing.
Of the EPA stuff in it. And to find a polisher in Eli's Polishing here in Southern California, from Southern California, is who you've got to go to get your work done. his prices are beyond reasonable. And the quick turnaround time, both on polishing and chrome, was incredible.
Awesome.
Kevin Corder from Detroit is the fellow that modified my frame. And I followed his site, and I see that he did seats also. So I said, would you do my seat for me? After he did the frame, he said, yes. So I sent him the seat pan, and I made a design out of foam of what I wanted. And he made a beautiful seat.
Beautiful seat.
And he never sent me a receipt. And I said, what do I owe you? He says, it's my gift to you.
Nice.
Blew me away.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a nice guy, man. That's incredible.
Now, George, the painter, I'm going to spell his last name because I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. It's Tantardini. He's on the list behind you if you want to read it off the picture. But I'm dyslexic, so things move around in my head in a really weird way.
Tantardini.
Say that again.
Tantardini.
What? Tantardini. He goes as Hootie on Instagram. He does kind of all of the lowriders, detailed metal flake.
Yeah, he's sick. He's a great painter, man.
His work is incredible.
Incredible.
And he's the most reasonable. His prices are incredibly reasonable.
Awesome.
And his work is exceptional. Then we got Jeff Stiles, the pinstriper. OC Cars, Lindsay Hoover did all the welding, on the exhaust system and stuff. And I tell you, when you look at her, you don't see welder. You see kind of a Vargas pinup.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah, she's incredibly talented. Wheelworks, they do all of my wheels. And they're also in Old Town Orange. Since the first bike I built here, I found them. And they do exceptional work. Q&E Machine Shop did the machining. Paul of Award Cycles did all the custom parts on the carburetors and stuff. Look them up.
Okay.
And it's Award Cycles. And then Scott Klein, he's the fellow that owns my bikes. It's a friend.
Yep.
So, and then to you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's like, I got stuff to say, but if nobody's listening, it's like if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody around to hear it.
No question. No question.
Right.
I don't know.
Hey, Ben, let me ask you this.
One last thing. We want to talk about the Texas show, too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Texas in October.
So, you wanted to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's do the pitch for Texas, and then Ben and I will want to ask Ben a question.
So, there was so much momentum of builders coming from Texas. And there were a lot of people that kept saying, come to Texas, come to Texas. Well, Born Free, this year is its 4th year in Texas. They've got this huge ranch. I mean, the facility is exponentially bigger than where Born Free is here.
That's crazy.
It's October 16th through the 19th.
Yep.
And if you go to www.bornfreeshow.com, that's where you'll get all the information.
Yep.
And that's about all the shows. And there may also be information on how to contact the Grant and Mike about being considered a bike builder and stuff. These guys are 2 amazing sweethearts. And I have no idea what they were running on, but they were running on 110% energy.
Yeah, man.
From the beginning to the end, there was no downtime. I was just, it's like, whatever you're on, I want some of that.
Yeah, you can tell you can tell that they're passionate about what they do and what they bring. So it's good to have guys like that in the industry. Ben, what was your impression? Because you're not really Ben's. Even though he rides, he comes more from the dirt road. So this is something new as far as event-wise for you. I've been to a lot of them. This is my first Born Free show, but I've been to a lot of them around the country. What was your, feedback regarding the energy, the people, the builds, the vibe? I mean, I'd love to hear it from your point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to knock Florida at all, but Floridians, you can ride year round. Going to Daytona plenty of times and just seeing it around the state down here. It's a different vibe. I would say in California, the culture is just awesome. You got lots of younger guys and girls hopping on bikes. it's like sewn into the culture
Yeah.
almost more so, where and there's a different kind of pride where it's not so much of look at me, I ride motorcycles. It's more look at my
Right.
motorcycle, and I love that vibe. The culture was just so cool, and going into the event, it was wild because, like we were saying, the Dust Bowl sort of parking lot. I'm thinking, oh man, what is this going to be like? And then we go into
Yeah.
this gorgeous event where everybody was super welcoming. We didn't get a cold shoulder from a single person that we talked to, and across all the different booths. And going to the different booths was awesome. We just had Eric Espinoza on from Espinoza Leather, and that business is definitely a cornerstone of the culture there and sort of a microcosm of what it's all about. So customizing cuts to fit specifically, and that's what people have done with their bikes out there. And I love how unique the builds were. In Florida, you run through a parking lot full of motorcycles or go to the show, it's nowhere near as diverse, I would say. And the trends out there are so much more it's just so much more rich. It's hard to put it into words exactly to differentiate, but just not even comparing it to Florida and just looking at it for what it is, it was awesome. Guys that are standing by their bikes, you make a comment and they'll run you through the gambit from top to bottom. The pride was awesome, and it was placed in the right spot.
Yeah,
That
my
was such a
impression was
fun
it was my first time attending the show. I've been to Sturgis, obviously Daytona down here, and all the events, Laconia, most of the major events I've been to. This show totally blew me away. I was fortunate enough to ride the whole California from San Francisco to Baja, Mexico. So it was my first impression of California back in 2000, and fell in love with it. I mean, I always thought California was the most beautiful state in the United States outside of the political side of it, which is destroying it. But man, walking into that, I think I think California has 99.9% of the diners ever built in that state. I've never seen so many diners in my life. I'm telling you. See, Florida's different, and this is the difference, Carl. Florida is more of a bagger state, right? There's less customs out here, and there's more baggers. So the guys down here, they all have hyped up street glides, hyped up road glides. That's the main machine. So anywhere you go, it's a bagger scene. It's purely a bagger scene. What I loved about that is you had so many dynamics. As Ben was saying, it's a youthful, younger, energetic generation, and it's completely different. It was just a killer vibe where it wasn't just I'm an old guy, so I'm gonna say, for the older guys in Florida, it's more older guys, beer belly guys, that type of stuff. And there, it was just killer, man, because you can see it all. You got guys riding in on choppers, you got guys riding in, girls too, riding in on choppers and FXRs, and it was just really, really cool scene. I fell in love with the culture, and I understand why now California truly is the mecca motorcycle culture world for the community.
Well, the interesting thing that it's always been car culture, anything with wheels that transports, hot rodding, land speed racing, motorcycles, and there's a certain ease because you can split lanes here when you're driving. And it's not against the law. And they split lanes at 80 and 90 miles an hour on the freeway.
They ride hard, man. They ride hard.
It's definitely a way to get from point A to B versus in a car.
We were coming down the canyon, and we were in a truck, and we were coming down, and there was like all these twists and turns, and like 13 to like 15 choppers were right on the side of us, between us and the side of the road where it's just a drop. Usually it's to the left, man. They blew by us on the right. I squeezed out, man, to give them room. But I was like, damn, these guys ride hard, man. Yeah. I don't know. I'd be a little nervous. I'm not used to that riding down here. We don't have lane splitting. So it kind of makes me a little nervous. I've been in places where they had it, and I followed some guys through. But if somebody who's not used to it, it's kind of a nerve-wracking ride.
Well, it's dangerous because when you move from the HOV lane, which is 2 people or more, into the regular lane or vice versa, you look in the mirror and there's nobody there, and you look again and there's 5 bikes that
Right. I know, it's crazy.
But whatever, it's
Right.
just part of the thing.
Exactly.
You know, the other thing I wanted to say is that the goodie bag that the fellows from Born Free created for us was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah, what was that about?
Oh, there were white boots and Vance shoes and
Nice.
a beautiful knife engraved with our names on it.
Oh,
You want to hold
sweet.
on 1 second? I'll go get it and show it to you. It was,
Sure.
you know, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
804 beer. Did you ever have any of that?
Yeah, we had some 804.
Yeah, we got one.
You
of
guys
those.
Yeah, they gave us at the show like 3 giant cans.
Yeah.
And then the other day I got a 12 or a 24 pack shipped to me from them. So I got more than
cool.
enough alcohol to keep me
Nice.
smiling.
All
for
right,
a
we're coming back
while,
to
you know.
California then. We're coming back to celebrate.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, at the amount that I drink, I'm sure it'll be here next
That's
year.
funny.
No.
Yeah. While Carl's grabbing that knife, Serge, do you have any funny or chaotic moments you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Weekend?
outside of the fact that on Friday we got bumped and our flight was delayed and all that stuff, and we were up for 25 hours out of a 24-hour day with the 3-hour time difference.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
with man, there was a lot of good moments. I had a lot of fun at Cook's Corner because that was cool to see all the guys and all the group girls too, you know, a little bit lit up, having a good time towards the end. And I had a lot of fun with Robin Hartfield when he took us to the Costa Mesa Speedway. That was cool as hell. So if you guys out there in California, hopefully you've had a chance to enjoy it. That was awesome. That was a really, really funny and just a enjoyable moment. Obviously the show was the show, but you?
So
Yeah.
So
Max
this
Brumo
is-
was insane.
this is the knife.
Oh, yeah.
It's
fixed blade.
it's made by White Knuckle. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
I don't know
beautiful.
if you can see.
Yeah.
But on there, it's got my name, Born Free 16,
Nice.
and stuff.
That's
Very
so cool.
cool.
And I got to tell you, I mean, it's like I'm afraid of it. It's so short. But I
Yeah.
mean, each time they evolve, all the related aspects of them evolve also. You know, got
Yeah.
these really cool sunglasses
Nice.
for motorcycles. You know, we're part of the
Nice.
goodie bag.
That's cool.
You know, the tin. I mean, it's probably more. I'm worried that I forgot other people that gave stuff, but it's like, yeah, they really, really put on a good show.
That's great.
And everyone seems to leave happy, the viewers as well as the people that are doing it.
Absolutely.
And it's in it
Yeah.
when they break down on Sunday at the end of the thing, within an hour it's all gone.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
to
crazy.
get out of there.
I know, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
so-
Hey, Ben, what about you as far as the chaotic fun? What would you experience?
I've met so many fun and chaotic people.
Yeah, there's a lot
You
of
know?
different personalities there, which was cool.
Yeah. I think speaking of Detroit, man, I
Oh,
think
he's
we're
a
gonna have
sweetheart.
him on
He
the
is
show.
a sweetheart.
cool.
Man.
He is incredible. He is a legend. What a cool man. The hosts of the show, those guys were.
Oh, by the way,
insane.
hey, Carl, I
Um,
gotta tell you something. Ben met his childhood hero, Steve Calabero, and
yeah, I was gonna. One.
he was
of my
just in
childhood
awe
heroes.
of
That
him.
was
He
cool.
was still skateboarding up there, and Ben was like a little
Yeah.
kid in a candy
That's
store.
sick,
So
Pete.
one of our friends,
Yeah.
Jason Gerald from Phoenix Handlebars,
Yeah,
man.
from
Yeah,
Phoenix
he
Handlebars.
was good friends with Steve, and he introduced Ben. They took a picture together. He had a smile on his face for like the next hour, like a little kid, man, who just met his hero.
Meeting
man.
like we were at the S&S booth and we were talking and Jason and Robin, you know, we're all talking and Jason mentions we're talking about all kinds of stuff and the conversation heads towards how the show's going, etc. And Vans had a big half pipe there And he goes, and I saw Steve already, and he mentioned Steve texted him before the show. And I'm almost 40 years old. I don't really expect to geek out or nerd out about anybody, but when he said that, I was like, wait, what? He texted you? So Steve Caballero, he has been an absolute legend in the skate scene for decades, and he's one of the OGs.
Still
I
doing
mean, the
it,
guy
man. He's
has
in the
put his
60s and
body
he's still rapping it on the
through
board.
war. And yeah, he fell a few weeks prior, and I had heard about that, so I asked him how he was doing. And this is right after he went down on his knees from a 25-foot pipe, and he's like, "Oh, it's coming along." And he's like, just at 60 years old to still be doing that stuff, to still be getting air. I mean, he's always been a humble, incredible guy. So for me, that was a fun and chaotic moment, because it's bringing up feelings from when I was 9 years old trying my first ollie on my basement. That was really cool. So like that leans towards the community, getting to know all the guys that we've had on the show, or some of the guys that we've had on the show. That was really cool to meet people in person, and that gives us aspirations moving forward for, as this continues to grow, getting on site and getting shows done in person is just, it's a whole different feel. This is awesome that we're able to do it over the computer screen and connect whenever from wherever, but that in-person boots on the ground feel was so cool. Yeah, there are too many. The cook's corner, them lifting the shovel head up with the guy on it. He let some girl try to kickstart his bike. It smelled like raw gasoline in there for a solid 10 minutes. The burnout. That there's so many things.
And the crazy part, you know what the crazy part is, Carl?
Like,
I don't normally buy t-shirts at events, but I mean, I got like, there was so many great companies that I liked, so there was that was there.
Yeah,
And I ended up scoring.
Christine,
I think I
man.
walked away with like 5 or 6 t-shirts out of all the places, just because it was just like, to me, it was worth it, because these are great companies and they represent the right thing and so on. Ben, what surprised you most about the show?
Man, I don't. Hey, I knew it was going to be big, but probably the turnout still was just crazy to see in person. The grass passes on Saturday, that was completely packed out. The venue, probably the venue and the turnout were both absolutely nuts. That I think, there's more things that I could think of that are surprising they'll probably come to me. But what about
For
you,
me,
sir? What
it was
surprised you
the
the most?
motorcycles, man. There was just as many great builds outside as they were inside the show. I mean, like,
Yeah,
you're
that's a great
walking
point.
around, right? There's
Oh, yeah.
so many great builds that guys and girls come on, and even though they're parked outside the show in the motorcycle parking lot, you walk through this parking lot and it's just mouth dropping. I think I've got over probably 1,500 photos just of bikes alone, and probably 1,000 of them are in the parking lot. So like,
Oh, the
I was just
parking lot
blown
is
away.
crazy.
Yeah, the scene is
Yeah, it was
unreal.
There's the show, and then there's the show,
Right.
and it's like it's a whole counterculture that is it's tribal in a sense, that you have the people that come into the show, and then you have the people that want to watch the show, and yet they're all related in the same thing
That's
that
right.
they build by,
That's right.
Yeah,
you know,
family.
and I mean, I would like to just be at the mouth of where they come off the canyon into the Born Free,
Yes,
just
man.
to watch the comings
Yeah.
and going.
I had that
You
same
know.
thought. Man, dude,
I mean,
set
that
up
would be
with a
killer.
tent and a chair and
Just
just
watch.
Yeah, because then you get to hear all the bikes too. That was one thing, like seeing them all parked.
I've
but
never
getting them
I've never
to-
seen
oh, that
so
would've
many
been-
straight pipes in my life. That was great to see that old school sound, and so all the carbureted bikes, and it was just real, man. I don't know, it just blew me away. It just truly blew me away. So
Yeah,
that was a huge one.
As long as you don't do anything stupid, the police are kind of give you a
They're pretty cool.
large
They're pretty
lane to
cool,
operate
yeah.
in. You know what I mean? because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
kind of looking for big fish. They're not looking to bust your
Right.
chops.
Right.
But again, if you do something stupid, they'll
Yeah.
get you. And believe me, there's a fair number of people doing stupid stuff
Yeah,
out here.
for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, we heard a high speed chase when one of the nights, I think it was Friday night, we finished the night by grabbing some pizza with Trader Cody's choppers and some of his, his girl and friends and stuff, and we were outside and heard a street bike, and 2 seconds later we heard sirens
Yeah.
from multiple
Oh, yeah.
angles there. So,
Yeah.
so I have a question. For you, Carl, both of you guys. Why does Born Free matter, in general and specifically to the motorcycle scene and the culture?
It's a nucleus.
Get deep,
It's a
Carl.
nucleus. It's kind of I draw the analogy that it's like Woodstock.
It's a great analogy.
yeah.
And this thing happens that will not happen anyplace else. It's a moment in time, the way it unfolds. And then the thing that I find really fascinating is that there's so many people I run in contact that don't even know about Born Free that live here.
That's wild.
It's this level that if you're not part of that movement, and what happens, it's a meeting place for people from all over the world that genuinely have a level of passion and commitment, where other people are going to take a cruise to go to Europe on vacation or do this. This is the high point of their being, is this event.
Yep.
And Grant and Mike just do such an exceptional job to keep it moving. I mean, you didn't see one issue there. You didn't see one fight or break. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No,
right.
no. It was really chilled.
I didn't even
Everybody, it was really good, man. It was good. And
I mean, the thing is that
I didn't even
if
see
you
an
stay
argument.
too long in one place, you can get really high quick just breathing the air.
yeah. There was a lot of ganja being lit up. That's for sure, man.
Oh yeah,
But that's California. You guys, it's legal there.
for
so
sure.
Everybody enjoys
Well,
it.
but that sets the tone that there's no colors, there's no gangs, they don't allow it. You saw a few police, just that they're there to keep things in order and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's considered one of the best shows in the United States.
Hands
and you talk to
down.
people
Maybe even in
around,
the world.
and other people out of the country say it's the best show they've ever gone to.
Yeah, 100%.
And again, it's like if you don't know about it, you don't know about it.
Man,
Again, I draw the analogy that it's like Woodstock.
No, listen. I'm gonna.
That is
You've
a
been
great
there.
analogy.
You guys are fortunate enough to have that in your backyard, which is sweet. So for us outsiders, I'm just gonna tell anybody who loves the motorcycle, the vintage motorcycle, the custom build, the chopper world, the FXR world, just that whole era of 60s, 70s, and obviously now the FXR scene, man. You have to make it up there. Don't go up there if you're in the East Coast for like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Man, give yourself a couple of days because it's a grind, man. It's a lot of running around, and that's why I just wanted to kind of take a moment before we finish up here and just thank a couple of people that really helped us along the way on this journey. One, obviously, Carl. Thank you. You're a big part of our life.
Man.
So
Uncle Carl.
Cody Brewers.
We love you, man.
From Trader Cody's Chopper on Instagram. Man, we had him on the show, and I liked him right out of the gate, man. But this guy was huge. He had his chopper down there. He drove in from Nevada, gave us his truck to use, picked us up at the airport, dropped us off at the airport. Just one of the kindest souls and one of the best men I've ever met in my life. Top-notch guy, and he's going to be one of these guys coming up in this Born Free show soon, so keep an eye on him. If you guys don't follow him, it's Trader Cody's Choppers. His girlfriend Allie,
Cody
his
Brower.
girlfriend Allie, man,
Trader
she
Cody
was awesome, just
She was
an
awesome.
incredible young woman,
Yeah.
just a go-getter.
Yeah, so she works for Harley and goes and travels and does all events.
But on
all
top
these
of that,
events
she's
across
a
the country,
RN,
and she was
emergency
working in bike
nurse. So
security.
that
Yep. So she had some really cool stories about different shows. That was
Yeah,
a really
Robin
cool
Hartfield
connection.
for sure, man. He's the editor for Dealer News, and one
Man.
of one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
Gave us a chance, took us out Saturday night to the Costa Mesa Speedway. Have you been there, Carl?
Speedway.
I have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Killer,
Isn't
man.
that
That was
cool?
That was
unbelievable.
so
Like that was so awesome to
yeah.
see it like that. And for like, man, there's so many great things motorcycle related in California that really, my goodness, it's just incredible. Jason Gerald, Phoenix Handlebars,
Yeah.
MIJ Motorcycle Industry Jobs. Great guy, man. Great guy.
Love him.
Good to spend some time with him. Then we were
Yeah.
lucky enough to,
Yeah.
see James Alcorn Fish from Alleyway Customs. Spend a little time. He's a Florida
Yeah.
boy, so it was cool to see him.
Yeah.
Man, I was Brian
great
Clark gave us the time again. One of the nice guys in the industry from Clockworks. Man, it
Yeah.
was good to meet Sacha Kraus in person. We had him on the podcast, and Sacha's
Yeah,
just
Sacha
a
was
top-notch guy, man.
Yeah.
You know what was cool for me too is Chip from San Diego Customs and Detroit.
was
Meeting
awesome.
those two guys was a really good highlight for me because I love Chip. He's as real as they get, and he's him.
He talked to us for like an hour, and he gave us the
coming on the
rundown on all the
podcast.
bikes.
And obviously, I mean, Detroit was killer,
Yeah.
man. Detroit was like, I never met him.
Yeah.
I've only seen him,
He's
his
a
personality
personality.
through Instagram and social media. I know
Yeah.
he's a legend in the industry and he's close with like
Yeah.
Billy Lane and those guys. But man, he took some time
Yeah.
you introduced us, Carl. Thank you for that. And he's
Yeah.
coming on the show. So just like, man, when you get a chance to really be in that small community, even though there was a lot of people, it really is a small community. You realize how many good people there really are in that industry, and the people
Yes,
who
there
share
is. Yeah.
your passion. And it was just like, I left there, man, my heart was so like, man, it was just like filled with like, I can't even describe it. I all I know is that we'll be back there next year, and man, I fell in love with it. But we're not doing a 3-day trip. We're coming in for like 5 or 6, man. We're gonna enjoy
You gotta
California a
take
little
advantage
bit.
of it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another thing too
Yeah.
that's out here, which is El Mirage. Like we have Bonneville in the middle of the country for
Yeah.
land speed racing. We got a dry lake here that's just a couple of hours from where we were that they do land speed racing. So you
That's
get a lot
cool.
of bikes and stuff. So if that's in your wheelhouse,
that's what we
not-
like to do, is just plan it out and knock off a couple of events throughout the week or something. Really take advantage of the California scene and not have to be in such a rush. But even if you guys get up there for 2 or 3 days, it's well worth it, man. It's well worth it. Just remember, there's no cell phone coverage at all. So don't plan on
That's
talking
great,
to
man.
nobody,
That's great.
man. It's great. It's great
that-
unless you Uber in. So you better have your own vehicle or ride in on a motorcycle, because you're not going to be able to call Uber to come and get you and drop you off. There is zero reception anywhere, and until you get out of the valley part of it, you're not going to get any phone service. So thank God for Cody.
I wanted to mention that too. Like it's a step back in time, because the only reason people have their phones out at all is to take pictures
and
of the
videos. Yep.
bikes. So you didn't see, like, everywhere you go, we had just gotten out of an airport and then went right back to the airport where everybody's heads are buried in their phones and doing the zombie walk and all that. And to go to a spot that's secluded in this beautiful venue where nobody has their phone out, it was so awesome to be able to get that in a massive group of people. Nobody was messing around.
Everybody's
on their phone.
talking
That
to
was so
everybody
cool.
else.
Yep.
It's all
Exactly.
communication.
Man, I missed
Yeah.
those years.
So I wanted
Yeah.
to also make mention that also at the show, they give away 2 motorcycles. They give away a new Harley.
Yeah.
And they
That's
give
right.
away a
Yeah, it's a
custom
big
built
thing.
bike. So
Yeah.
it's like there's a lot of stuff going. It would be cool if you could get Grant and Mike to do a podcast.
We would love to, man.
Just so once whatever this is, I'll forward it to them
Thank you.
Hopefully
We're,
they'll
we're,
still
we're gonna
like
we're
me
gonna
after
release
all
this. We're gonna release this tomorrow. So
Yeah. There's one bike
Yeah.
they gave away,
couple of shovel heads.
and there's the other one.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
I'll
forgot to
add
thank
these to the
Carrie Brobeck
episode.
from Choppers Magazine too, man. He was
Oh, we can't
generous. He
forget
took us
Carrie
in.
and
Showed it. He
Ruben.
was real good guy.
Oh, that was a funny story. We went up to the what is
Yeah.
it? Choppers Magazine, the booth right by the little bridge there, Carl. We walked around the corner, and this is the first time we approached the booth. We were asking if Carrie was around. He wasn't, but Ruben was there. Got to know him, another awesome guy. They have a lot of really cool people there working at that magazine. But as I'm standing there, they've got two of their issues on stands sort of facing out towards the crowd. And there's one with a bike and another with a girl, no clothes on the bike.
What are you doing looking at
and
those
so I'm
magazines?
standing there,
man?
I'm flipping through.
You're a married man.
Well,
for
I was
crying out
looking at the
loud.
one without the girl on it. Yeah. So I had the one without the girl on it. I'm looking through because I hadn't held one before. And they make them like coffee table pieces. Really nice. Anyway, so I'm combing through pages, and then this woman comes up next to me and she goes, "Oh, that's me." And it was actually the girl on the cover of the magazine. So I stepped to the side, and she's taking pictures with her cover shoot. It was freaking hilarious. Those guys were awesome, though. That was a really cool, really cool
I got
booth.
somebody
That's a
ringing
great
my
cover.
doorbell.
All right, wait. We're gonna put an end to this show anyway. So we'll call it a day. Carl, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us the insight, buddy.
We love you, Uncle
And
Carl.
we'll see you soon. Okay.
You got it, my friends. Love you.
Love you
Can't
too,
wait.
buddy.
Can't wait
All
to
right.
see you.
Have
Love
a
you,
great
man.
weekend.
See you,
Yeah.
Uncle
Be
Carl.
safe.
Thanks.
See you, bud. Thank you.
Somebody's at the door.